Hello, everyone. Welcome to my very brief research presentation on large language models and the research agenda that I'm pursuing. I'll quickly share my screen. And yes, hopefully that is all visible to you. Again, this is my research agenda for large language models. Naturally, large language models are now transforming our capabilities in language, reasoning, coding, and planning, and there are cross-cutting applications across various critical sectors, such as healthcare. And there's an urgent need for safety and equity. My research goals and indeed my research practice has multiple strands, one of which is involving the public, for example, patients and the public, in building these models and communicating these models to them. I also complement large language models with other more traditional computer science techniques like automated theorem proving. I'm interested in the theory and the fundamental mechanisms behind how these large language models work and the philosophy behind them. These models also tend to hallucinate, and wherever possible, I validate and complement these models with more gold standard external data sets. And a research strand that I'm extremely interested in is explainable AI, that is, can we explain what these models are doing? And lastly, I'm very, very interested in training on ethical data and data that is fit for purpose and fit for the cultural contexts in which these models will be used. More into sort of the theoretical investigations and emergence. I'm interested in multi-agent large language models. So, for example, here is a paper that was published at an IEEE conference this year and also at a AAAI conference this year, a workshop, AAAI workshop this year. These are multi-agent systems that sort of interact with each other, and each agent has a persona. So, for example, here is a barista who naturally works in a cafe, and there is another student. They interact, and we made one of these agents spread a lie or a rumor about the barista. And the rumor was that she is stealing money from the cafe. This turned out to be false, but after multiple agents sort of interacted with each other, we sort of expected these rumors to spread. However, that is not what happened. It turned out that after a few iterations of this game, the person who was spreading the rumors was confronted by the barista. And this person who actually was spreading the rumor ended up apologizing to the barista. So the name of this paper is I Apologize for My Actions, because that is literally what the agent said. And these are the kinds of mechanisms that I'm very, very interested in sort of investigating. Is this genuine internalized regret that is emerging? Are these agents having some kind of a theory of mind, which is very, very exciting? And can we, or are these some kinds of hallucinations? These naturally need further investigation, but these are the kinds of fundamental mechanisms that I'm very, very interested in. I'm also interested in the fundamental limits of reasoning in large language models. Here is another paper that we published in Scientific Reports in the Nature Publishing Group and was a spotlight paper at a NeurIPS workshop last year. We are looking at these visual puzzles, extremely hard visual reasoning and abstraction puzzles from the abstraction and reasoning corpus called ARC. And we used large language models, but also complemented them with other neurosymbolic solvers and tried solving these puzzles. These are the kinds of work that we use to sort of probe the fundamental limits of reasoning in large language models, which is really sort of the first step in even determining what kind of safety issues can manifest if we use large language models in safety critical domains. Large language models, as I said before, they also tend to hallucinate and have lots of different problems. And wherever possible, I'm very interested in combining large language models with other more traditional techniques that have that have been around for a long, long time. So, for example, here is a project that we just presented at a New Reps workshop this year, looking at this theme of AI for science or AI for math. We're using large language models to solve and prove extremely hard theorems, mathematical theorems that have either not been solved at all or are extremely difficult, like on math Olympiad problems. And our approach is to use informal sketches that have been made by humans, use them in large language models, but then complement them with automated theorem provers like Lean, which have been around in the field of computer science for decades. And the idea is another research strand is, can we come up with provable guarantees that large language models are safe and robust and ethical? And wherever possible, I'm very interested in combining them with other techniques which are fit for purpose. Another sort of strand that I'm very interested in are agentic workflows. Here is work that again we presented recently at a NeurIPS workshop. This is also a startup that we are trying to build using text information for enterprise cases for business users. So a business analyst who works in a company can have some business queries. These get translated into SQL that gets queried against a database. This normally does not work very well, but here again, our approach is to use custom knowledge databases and knowledge repositories and constantly refine these queries. Again, there is this theme of sort of complementing large language models with other external data sets, gold standard external data sets, or other techniques to ensure that hallucinations and other sort of weaknesses are kept to a minimum. Again, there is this theme of hybrid models, combining knowledge in sort of knowledge repositories, using common sense knowledge wherever it's feasible, and also querying repositories of human ethics. There's something more I will have to say about that. And I'm very interested in applying these in critical domains such as healthcare and finance, as we saw here. AI for science is something that I'm extremely interested in. Can we generate automated AI scientists that work very closely with real human scientists? The idea is not to completely automate the scientific process, but complement human creativity and human problem solving, give humans new sort of tools, agentic tools to sort of do science, but complement them with other techniques like classical AI techniques and symbolic regression. Again, this is work that we presented last year at AAA workshops. Another massive research theme that I've been pushing for a long time is pushing for explainability in AI. And one thing that I've worked a lot are these class contrastive counterfactual explanations, pushing sort of themes on sort of mechanistic interpretability, which is extremely important for large language models, since these are very hard to explain. In previous projects, what I've done is I've developed with clinicians these kinds of explainable AI techniques. So for example, here's an explainable AI technique that explains why certain patients are the columns in this heat map and the features are the rows. Why certain patients are at high risk of mortality in sort of schizophrenia. And the idea is that you can use these class contrastive counterfactual explanations. For example, if this is a banking system, that particular explanation would be you were denied a loan because your salary was less than 20,000 pounds. If it was greater than 30,000, then you would have got the loan. So an explanation might be you are at high risk of mortality because you are on this particular medication and you have other comorbidities. If you did not have them, or if you had some other sort of medication that you were put on, then you would be at low risk. And the idea is that explainability is a key step, is a key ingredient in building safe and ethical AI systems and large language models. I'm very interested in applying these kinds of techniques and mechanistic interpretability in large language models. And I'm very interested in systemic risk that come up from using these large language models in different contexts. So for example, sort of systemic risk in developing nations in the global south, different kinds of ethical considerations that need to be taken into account. This is a NeurIPS workshop paper that we presented last year on ethical considerations of generative agents. things like excessive anthropomorphization, creation of parasocial relationships, usage by malicious users, but also things that have been neglected, like displacement of human labor. If we deploy these devices and these applications at scale, you would have knock-on effects, like, for example, massive demand for lithium, which gets mined in Bolivia, and then you have mass migrations or sort of human rights abusers, orb workers who are now mining lithium and silicon, things that you would not expect or associate with massive users of large language models. But these are things that we sort of surfaced in this particular paper. There is this theme that I'm very interested in, constantly moving between theory and practice. In a paper that we published in AI and Society journal, we looked at philosophical frameworks for understanding intelligence and large language models. But I'm also interested in the applications of these. So, for example, in the scientific reports paper in the Nature Publishing group that we spoke about, we pushed this agenda of applying these techniques to real problems. So I'm very interested in moving very fluidly between theory and practice. Again, something that I'm really interested in is also looking at the human angle. Ultimately, it is humans who will be using these machines, and I'm interested in involving lay users like patients, like the public, in actually creating AI models with us. There are multiple papers that we have published, for example, in the Patterns Journal, which is in the Cell Press publishing group, and also another AI and Society paper that we published on this. Lastly, another very big research theme is AI for the Global South. I'm currently working with collaborators in Zanzibar and India, working with local communities, ensuring that local context and local culture gets integrated into these large language models, and using them to design and inform national AI strategies of nations in, say, the eastern region of Africa. This is a paper that we recently sort of published in Europe's 2025. Another paper has just been accepted at a AAAI workshop, which will be presented next year. And then the idea is to sort of push this research agenda, train these models on data sets of ethical judgment so that ethics gets sort of fine-tuned or trained sort of right from the beginning in these models. My research naturally informs my teaching practice, the ethics of the AI and the human angle in AI, and really how human scientists work very closely with other domain experts, as shown in this workflow here. You're constantly building these models in collaboration with domain experts and never in sort of isolation. This research practice also sort of really strongly influences my teaching practice. So I'm very interested in teaching the ethics of AI, explainable AI algorithms, and the entire gamut of large language models to my students. Finally, I just want to quickly lay out a quick 3-year roadmap. The first year would be rapid pilots, quick releases, quick wins with a few papers. And once I get some prime funding to sort of prime pump funding to sort of fund this research, I will go on to medium level grants with collaborators locally, but also internationally, and hire a postdoc or an RA, host a workshop. And then the last year would be this third year would be large collaborative bids that would ultimately lead to very high impact papers. Again, there is this triage that I want to do between small pots of funding, but also medium and larger calls from other agencies, such as the Wellcome Trust and the MRC. I have an MRC grant that I'm a co-PI on that's currently under review. Naturally, I'll be reaching out to other charitable institutions and corporations, and the UKRI will be a major source of funding in the future if I'm successful. Again, this is a quick summary of my research practice. I like to move very seamlessly from the theory of large language models, investigate the human angle, look at risk and ethics, look at explainability, which is a major factor. And I'm very interested in sort of the practice of this, applying these to very safety critical applications such as enterprise, healthcare, and also applying it to the global south. And my goal is to really link the theory to the practical in these large language models. Thank you so much again for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thanks a lot again.